Apocrypha, the NYPD Blue novel series. The undeniable success of Blue in its early days led to Signet Books commissioning 2 novels from mystery writer Max Allan Collins. The first paperback novel, Blue Beginnings, serves as a prequel to the series, and given the pilot's remarkable ability to hint at years of backstory between these characters, the early days of the Kelly-Sipowicz partnership does provide ample material to cover. The official summary goes, quote, Detective John Kelly and Detective Andy Sipowicz have a very big problem when the stoolie they are guarding is shot, and they have to turn the streets of the city upside down to shake loose the killer and shake up the mob that rules the town. Unquote. Collins doesn't dig too far into the past, however, setting the story in the summer before the pilot, with Sipowicz drinking daily but still sober enough to do the job, and Kelly nowhere near ready to call it quits with his partner. This isn't an exact fit with the show's continuity, since Sipowicz is shown to be a non-functioning alcoholic by September of this year in the pilot, but the constant nods to the series do reveal Collins as a true fan. Foreshadowing of the arrival of Donna Abbandondo, more details on the death of John Kelly's father, including the revelation that he died on John's 11th birthday, the only indication of how Laura Michaels feels about Sipowicz, early appearances from Janice Licalsi and James Martinez, who we learned actually worked a case with Sipowicz before being introduced to Kelly, which is maybe not a direct contradiction of the show, and references to the more obscure detectives from the early days, like Mike Roberts, make this book feel like a novel almost exclusively for die-hard Blue fans. The demands of crafting a compelling story that works independent of the television series do present a few issues, with the reader just having to accept that John Kelly was shot and placed on medical leave only a few weeks before we met him in the pilot episode. Collins also feels compelled to provide a reason for Sipowicz hating Alphonse Giardella, which involves a teenage stripper that Sipowicz takes a liking to. Within the context of the novel, this is fine. However, it can't be reconciled with Fancy's claim in the earliest episodes that he simply can't understand why Sipowicz is so obsessed with this low-level Goomba. Also, per David Milch, Sipowicz's hatred of Giardella comes from the fact that he sees himself in the clown. Both bald, pudgy, and past their prime, but still going through the motions. Giving Sipowicz a legitimate reason for his Giardilla feud contradicts the subtext in Milch's writing. With that caveat, the book is greatly entertaining for fans of the show, especially those with warm memories of Blue's early days. When Collins pitched his next NYPD Blue novel, he presented an idea that any dyed-in-the-wool Blue fan would love. A case that has John Kelly and Bobby Simone crossing paths for the first time. Stephen Bochco Productions shut that down rather quickly, according to reports. The hard feelings lingering for David Caruso wouldn't even allow his fictional character to reunite with the crew in the prose novel tie-ins, it seems. With his initial idea shot down, and not a lot of material on the new guy to go on, Collins developed the second Blue novel, Blue Blood. The story is set shortly after Andy and Sylvia's wedding, when the 2 detectives are still in the process of getting to know each other. The official summary reads, quote, When a pair of armed intruders bursts into Detective Andy Sipowicz's apartment, he quickly concludes they are out to get him, and that he has put his new wife in danger. But everyone involved in the case believes Andy's wife, a prosecutor who has made plenty of enemies herself, could just as easily have been the target. Soon they will all find that the cold, hard truth is far more complicated, as it becomes quite clear that nothing is as it seems. Unquote. Reportedly, sales on this sequel were disappointing, and the Blue novel series died with this installment. Collins' lack of familiarity with Bobby Simone hurts much of the story, with Collins interpreting Bobby's taciturn nature as shyness instead of quiet self-confidence, struggling to translate Jimmy Smith's understated performance into a prose novel. The romantic subplot, which has Simone being seduced by the mentally unstable daughter of a Trump-style billionaire who just beat a murder charge, in an O.J.-inspired media circus trial, because this was the 90s, feels like it was conceived to play off Smith's matinee looks, although this format doesn't allow the author to utilize Smits's physical presence, of course. Collins doesn't have quite the grasp on Sipowitz's persona in this novel either, writing him as too plain-spoken, with poor grammar, and little of the wit seen in Milch's episodes. While the first novel does feel like a lost episode, with a continuity issue or two, Blue Blood often comes across as a throwaway story Collins hammered into a blue paperback. The book does have some appeal for fans of the series, however. Collins attempts to address some lingering issues from the show, or just real-life complications, like the fact that AA doesn't allow opposite-sex sponsors, which means there's no way Sipowicz could have ever sponsored Russell. Sylvia expresses jealousy over Andy and Diane's relationship in the novel, a plot point the TV writers later use with Connie when Kim Delaney returned for her guest arc. Collins also provides an explanation for why Kelly and Sipowicz rarely seem in contact following his departure, even though they were allegedly best friends. Collins has Simone speculate that the abrupt nature of Kelly's exit was too hard on the partners, so both are now keeping a respectful distance. One area the books exploit is the lack of network censorship, meaning you'll hear Blue characters drop F-bombs for the first time, more so in the second novel than the first. A bizarre postscript to the novel series would be the Penguin reader's release of Blue Beginnings as a children's novel, an illustrated children's novel, for a British audience. Featuring illustrations from Chris Chasty, the bare bones of Blue Beginnings are presented, with the writing aimed at, quote, English-speaking teenagers with limited reading skills and students of English as a second language, unquote. Describing the audience as teenagers is generous, as the writing is more on an elementary school level. Presumably, most of the people purchasing this version today are receiving it by accident from Amazon. But there's a perverse joy in seeing the Season 1 cast recreated as children's book heroes. It's also worth noting that the actors did not give their permission to have their likenesses recreated, so the artist is forced to render generic versions of 30-something Irish cop and aging bald guy in short sleeves. All of these novels are long out of print, but can be found on Amazon and other online retailers for reasonable prices. Blue Blood went through a period where it was oddly hard to find, fetching around $40 for a secondary market copy. But as of this writing, the paperback is once again affordable. It's only recommended for hardcore completists, but it is currently affordable, so give it that.